Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome into the weekly preview video. This week, obviously, I am going to be previewing, giving out my predictions for all these Week 17 games. This is the first week where I'm not giving any takeaways from the Thursday night game because those games are officially over. We're in the last 2 weeks of the year. So welcome in. So you guys kind of know what to expect, right? I'm going to dive right into these 1 p.m. games. Going to the 4 p.m. games, the Sunday night game, and the last Monday night game of this season. So why don't I just go ahead and get into this episode because I'm sure it's going to go over an hour and I don't want to keep you guys waiting. Starting with the first matchup, we're going to go with the New York Giants traveling out to Chicago to face the Bears. Not really much going on right here, guys. So I do believe I'm going to try to give you guys my best analysis on all these games. But when it comes down to a game where you got the Giants who are starting Mike Glennon, I believe he's the one starting. I still don't know if they're rotating between Mike Glennon and Jake Fromm. It really doesn't matter at this point, to be quite honest. Heading out to the Bears, the Bears got that win against Seattle last week, but they're not going to make the playoffs. More likely Matt Nagy's going to be fired. So you're talking about two teams that are going nowhere at this point of the season. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. Starting with the Giants injury report. Now, again, guys, since I'm doing this on a Friday, it's not like my past episodes this season where I did it on a Saturday where I have the final injury report. You're getting yesterday's injury report, so stay tuned for the actual final injury designations that will come out at some point throughout the day for all these teams outside of the game on Monday, of course. Starting with the Giants, these following players did not practice yesterday. Gary Brightwell with a neck, Austin Johnson with a foot, Colin Johnson with a hamstring, Billy Price with a personal reason, Kadarius Toney with a shoulder, and John Ross with a knee. This is the only team I saw list this, but / COVID ramp up. So I imagine that means getting them conditioned for the game. And then these following players were listed as limited practice for New York. Ben Bredesen with an ankle, Keon Crossan for COVID ramp up, Colin Gillespie with a shin, Adoree Jackson for a quad / COVID ramp up, Saquon Barkley for his ankle, Graham Gano for an illness, Raymond Johnson for an illness, Chris Myarick for an illness, Kyle Rudolph for an ankle, and Nate Solder for COVID ramp up. Now, the Bears are a lot more healthier than New York at this point of the year. These two players did not practice. Marquise Goodwin because of an illness, J.P. Holtz because of a personal reason, and then these two players were limited, Justin Fields with an ankle as well as Jason Peters with an ankle injury. So it'll be, with this game, like I said, I'm probably going to try to be quick with the games that really doesn't have much of a playoff implications, to say the least. I don't know who's going to be the Bears quarterback. Justin Fields is limited in practice. I'm not sure, with them not going to the playoffs, they say they want to get him back in the lineup, but I mean, you spent the first round pick on him. Obviously, you want to get your first round pick as many reps as you can. I'm a believer in that. But at the same time, you shouldn't be rushing back anybody with an ankle injury. You probably want to make sure he's 100% healthy. Don't, set him up for a bad offseason where he has to spend the first half of his offseason rehabbing because you wanted to rush him back into a game that didn't really matter. And then Andy Dalton's back at practice off the COVID list, but then Nick Foles got that win last week. So if Justin Fields can't go, I'm kind of curious. Did they let Andy Dalton be the starter, which they were doing this season, or did they let Nick Foles be the starter because he got the win last week? So there you go. I don't know who the quarterback's going to be. They're going against this Giants defense, which has been, I don't know if it's their fault that they've been more of a letdown. I think maybe their offense has put them in bad situations throughout the year. But with that being said, you can run the ball against them at times. You can even move the ball against them in the air. They've not been as sync as they were at the end of last year. So yeah, I think the Bears, regardless of who the quarterback is, they should still be able to get to that 3 touchdown mark on the day, I believe. You switch sides of the ball. I mean, yeah, that offense for New York's a mess. Whether it's Jake Fromm, whether it's Mike Glennon, they're going to struggle to move the ball. They have no consistency from their passing attack to sustain drives. They have no type of rushing attack out of the backfield with Saquon Barkley and Devontae Booker. It's just an offense that doesn't sustain drives, which leads to them not being able to put up points, which is why teams are basically handling their business against the Giants at this point. So yeah, that's where I'm going to go. I don't think it matters who the quarterback is. I think I'm going to go ahead and pick Chicago to win this game. I think they end up winning like a 24-10 win tomorrow. or Sunday. I'm so used to saying tomorrow because I always record these episodes typically on a Saturday. Now, moving on to this next game, we do got the Jacksonville Jaguars traveling up to New England to face the Patriots. Now, taking a look at the Jaguars injury report, James O'Shaughnessy did not practice with a hip, and then Dakota Allen was limited with a shoulder. And then you guys already know how the Patriots like to do it. They like to list everybody and their mom on the injury report every week. So these following three players did not practice: Nelson Aguilar with a concussion, Joshua Bledsoe with a calf, and Shaq Mason with an illness. And then these number of players were limited: David Andrews with a shoulder, Christian Barmore with a knee, Brandon Bolden with a knee, Nick Folk with a knee, Damian Harris with a hamstring, N'Keal Harry with a hip, Dante Hightower with a knee, J.C. Jackson with an elbow, Jacoby Myers with a thigh, and then Adrian Phillips with a knee. So, yeah, with this matchup, guys, obviously you got the Patriots who have stumbled over the last two games, losing to the Colts and Bills. They still have technically a shot to win their division, but they have to make sure they stack these wins in these last 2 weeks and hope the Bills drop a game or two. I'm not sure how exactly that has to play out because they split the series with the Bills. I don't know that by detail, to be quite honest, but I'm assuming Patriots win out, Bills lose one game. Patriots are probably the AFC East champs. So that's what they're trying to shoot for, so they can get a home playoff game on Wild Card Weekend. And then you look at the Jaguars, they're probably going to be the number one. I mean, right now they are the number one pick, and they're most likely going to be the number one pick unless they were to somehow either beat the Patriots this week or the Colts next week. Kind of highly doubt that, right? Especially with how the Jaguars have played and them now dealing with the interim head coach situation. So, yeah, with that being said, I expect New England's offense to be efficient with the ball. I expect them to pick up chunk gains on the ground with Damian Harris. I would probably assume Ramondre Stevenson's back this week. Those two will be able to move the ball on the ground. They'll put Mac Jones in third and short situations, which is where he kind of succeeds. And I think they're going to be able to put up 3 to 4 scoring drives on this Jaguars defense. Touchdown drives. I would like to reiterate between touchdowns and field goals. Scoring drives can be either. Touchdown drives are the ones I'm thinking they can put up points. So, and then with the Jacksonville side, yeah, their offense is a mess. I mean, and you think the Jaguars offense, who has been a complete disaster this season. Do you think they're going to go up to New England, where Bill Belichick has his history of destroying rookie quarterbacks? So yeah, Trevor Lawrence is probably going to have a rough outing. I did see this morning, I guess the Jaguars are also dealing with guys on their offensive line that are currently on the reserve COVID list. And people wondered if they should sit Trevor Lawrence because of him possibly getting hit. Darren Bevel, the interim head coach, said no, that's not going to happen. So you probably got some inconsistency out of their blocking, which you're already getting anyway. So it's going to be a rough day. I think the Patriots handle their business, win like a 28-7 win. I think they just completely take care of business, get in and out of that matchup with the win. Now, this is something that has some implications. So we got the LA Rams that are heading up to Baltimore to face the Ravens. Let's start with the injury reports really quick, knock those out. With the Rams, only 2 players did not practice. Taylor Rapp with a shoulder and Greg Gaines with a hand. No surprise, Baltimore continues to deal with their injuries. These following players did not practice as of yesterday: Anthony Everett with a ribs and chest, Marquise Brown with an illness, Lamar Jackson with an ankle, so that looks like that's kind of up in the air if Lamar is going to be able to play this week. Odafe Oweo, I think I butchered that, with a foot. Ben Powers with a foot, and then these 4 players were limited: Devin Duvernay with an ankle, Malik Jackson with an illness, Anthony Levine with a knee, and Patrick Ricard with his knee injury. So yeah, we got the Rams, who now are basically in control of the NFC West, so they just got to win, I believe, these last 2 games, and they should be able to win the NFC West. And then not only that, if the Packers were to lose this weekend against the Vikings, or then I think the Packers faced the Lions last week. So it's kind of probably an outside shot that the Rams would have a shot to be the number 1 seed in the NFC, but that's something they can still shoot for outside of just not only just winning their division. Then you got the Baltimore Ravens, who have stumbled at this point of the year. Basically, all the injuries have piled up and have finally caught up to them. Them playing all these close games have finally caught up to them. And it's just hard for you to win games when you're missing so many pieces, especially when they have so many guys in their secondary that are out right now. And then obviously when you're missing the playmaker himself, Lamar Jackson, that does not help. I know he was limited on Wednesday. He did not practice yesterday. I haven't heard anything promising that he'll play, so I'm kind of going into this preview with the assumption that Lamar is not going to play this game. It's going to be Tyler Huntley. He was activated off the COVID list. Now, one thing that could possibly go in the Baltimore's favor is, you guys have heard me point this out. Typically, when West Coast teams play all the way on the East Coast at this 1 p.m. slot time, history says that typically these teams will struggle, they'll come out slow, and the record usually favors those East Coast teams. Now, I normally factor that in, but a really good content creator, Jake Ellenbogen, he's really one of the top echelon Rams content creators. He's got his own YouTube channel. If you're a Rams fan, go give him a subscribe. He actually I saw him tweet this out the other day. I believe it's a really good record. I think I got this I think I'm remembering this right. Sean McVay at the 1 p.m. slot time is actually 10-2. So Sean McVay actually is really good at getting his team ready to play at this time slot. So I'm not going to factor that in, but that's always still technically there. But obviously Sean has proven himself to have his team ready to be up and ready to go for these games. Now let's go into the football aspect of things. With the Rams, obviously they got that win against the Vikings last week, where Stafford threw those 3 interceptions. So I think Stafford's set to have a bounce back game. He's, like I said, the Baltimore secondary is just decimated. So I think they're going to lean into the pass more. I think you're going to see a good game out of obviously Cooper Kupp, but I think Van Jefferson will get his. I think OBJ will get his, and I think they're just going to pick apart that defense throughout the day. That's going to keep the chains moving, keep that defense on the field so you can wear them down. They're going to hand the ball off a lot to Sony Michel because he's the only back they have. Darrell Henderson went on IR. I think he went on IR, but he's still out for like a few weeks. So, and then Cam Akers, I saw that report yesterday come on my phone that he is not expected to play this week, so it's going to be a full load of Sony Michel. They're going to try to establish the run with him and then feed off the play action into their pass game. And I think with all these injuries that are going on with the Baltimore secondary, I think they're going to put up like 4+ touchdown drives against the Ravens defense. And then you switch sides of the ball, the Rams defense is going to want to come and ball out. I think it was last year when the Ravens completely demolished the Rams, and I saw Aaron Donald talk about that on some tweet that some beat reporter put out. So that defense is going to be highly motivated against this team. So I expect them to sell out, make sure they stop the run, and then they're going to try to put this into a passing attack from Baltimore, which Tyler Huntley has done some really good things, but he's still going to have to deal with like a Jalen Ramsey in that secondary. So yeah, I could see some turnovers happening, and I just don't see much success going on for the Ravens offense. I do think maybe there's going to be like 2 or 3 touchdown drives they can get into the end zone, but I do wonder if it's going to be enough. It's going to be consistent enough, and I wonder if that's going to be too late. Like I wonder if they're going to be able to get those touchdowns early in the game so they can keep it close going into the fourth quarter. I don't really see that happening. Maybe if Lamar does somehow play on Sunday, I could see Lamar being a huge factor and keeping this being a close game, a 1-score game come time to the fourth quarter. But other than that, I do think LA is going to handle their business. I think the Rams win like a 31-17 win tomorrow. Sunday. I'm going to keep on saying tomorrow, so I'm so used to recording these on Saturdays. All right, moving into this next matchup, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up to New York to face the Jets. These following players did not practice for Tampa Bay yesterday. Shaquille Barrett with a knee, Antonio Brown with his ankle, Jason Pierre-Paul with a shoulder, Bradley Pinion with a hip, Richard Sherman with an Achilles, and Antoine Winfield Jr. with his foot. On New York side, Jamison Crowder did not practice with his calf, and then Sheldon Rankins was limited with his knee. So you got two teams in obviously opposite directions here at this point of the year. Jets, they're looking forward towards their off season, but you also got the Jets who are kind of like they have an opportunity to build upon next year, if that makes any sense to anybody. What I'm saying is they could maybe try to win these last 2 games and have some confidence going forward till next year, especially if Zach Wilson can perform very well against this Bucs defense. Now, this Bucs defense is not the defense what it could be because of all the injuries that they have dealt with. But still, if Zach Wilson were to put together a strong game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, that would definitely give him some confidence, and then he can go into next week with some confidence. And if he can kind of end his last month of the year, that should help his development in the offseason. I guess I might as well keep it with the Jets offense, but I just see some struggles coming because I still believe even without Levante, they still got those guys up in the defensive front where they, and especially in the middle of the defense with Vita Vea and Ndamukong Suh. And we'll have to see if Pierre-Paul or Barrett plays, but they still got their first-round pick, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. Anthony Nelson's a solid backup at the edge spot for them, too. So they should be able to control the run against Michael Carter, and they're going to force Zach Wilson to throw. Unfortunately, Zach Wilson doesn't have that many weapons, right? So I just don't see any consistency coming out of the Jets offense. I think they're going to struggle throughout the day. Flip sides of the ball, the Bucs, they're going against one of the worst defenses in the league. So I expect you're going to see a heavy dose of Ronald Jones. They're going to try to establish the run. Once they get that going, Tom Brady's going to feed off that run. He's going to make his dump offs to Gronk. He's going to make his dump offs to O.J. Howard, Bray. I'm assuming Antonio Brown maybe was just resting his ankle yesterday. I assume he ends up playing. He'll get his, and I think the Bucs end up winning like a 35-17 win, I guess. I don't know. I think they beat their butts. Now let's move into this next game. We do got the Atlanta Falcons traveling to Buffalo to face the Bills. Let's take a look at these injury reports. Atlanta just has one player. Fabian Moreau did not practice because of his ribs. And then on the Bills side, these 3 players did not practice yesterday. Verdon Butler with an illness, Emmanuel Sanders with a knee, Tawan Jones with a knee. And then these 3 players were limited. We have Mario Addison with a forearm, Ed Oliver with an ankle, and Jordan Poyer with a shoulder injury. So these are 2 teams obviously still fighting for things in their own perspective of the playoff picture. So starting with Atlanta, they're sitting at a 7-8 record. And they technically have a shot to be one of the wild card teams if certain teams were to lose and they were to win out, which is still obviously a big surprise, even though I did pick them to be second in the NFC South at the beginning of this year. Still a surprise, though, that they might have a shot to make it to the playoffs this year. So yeah, they still can have they still technically have a shot for the playoffs. They have something to fight for on Sunday. And then the Bills, obviously, they're coming off that huge confidence booster win over New England last week. And not only they are fighting to close out and win the AFC East so they can host a playoff game wildcard weekend, but technically they still have a shot at the number 1 seed in the AFC because I believe they're 1 game back from the Chiefs. And they beat the Chiefs earlier this season. So if the Chiefs were to lose this week against the Bengals, or if they were to lose next week against can't remember off the top of my head who KC faces in the last week of the year. It's one of the AFC West teams. They faced the Chargers twice already. It's either the Raiders or Broncos. I don't want to waste any more time thinking about that. So anyways, my point is the Bills are one of those teams that not only have a chance to go win their division to host a playoff game, but they also could potentially be the number 1 seed, depending on how these things unfold for not only the Chiefs, but also the Titans. So with that being said, the Bills offense going against this Falcons defense where, yeah, I mean, this Falcons defense is hit and miss this year. I mean, they got some pieces I always talk about, right? I like A.J. Terrell. I like Foyesade Oluokun and Deion Jones and Grady Jarrett. Dante Fowler's hit and miss with his play, but when he's on his play, he's very good at times. So they still got some pieces in that defense that can disrupt things, but they still got those leaky holes, which I think the Bills will take advantage of. They get all their guys back. They got Gabriel Davis back and Cole Beasley back off the COVID list, so they're going to have their full arsenal of weapons. Even if Emmanuel Sanders can't play with that knee injury, I mean, we saw Isaiah McKenzie step up last week. So I think Josh Allen is literally this past month, he's put this team on his back and he's willing them to victories. I don't really see that much happening. I think he leads his offense on 4+ touchdown drives. against the Falcons defense. You flip sides of the ball, the Falcons offense is, like sometimes Cordero's doing his thing, they're moving the ball easily, and then sometimes it's just a mess. I'm leaning towards a very inconsistent offense on Sunday. I really don't see how they're going to get anything going on the ground game between Mike Davis and Cordell Patterson. I think they're going to bottle that up, and then that's going to allow the defensive front of Buffalo to get after Matt Ryan. That Atlanta offensive line, it has its leaky holes in there. So Ed Oliver can blow up the middle. That'll allow guys off the edge like Gregory Rousseau, Jerry Hughes, guys like that to come off the edge and hit Matt Ryan. And unless like some guy has a complete ball out performance, I just don't think they have enough juice on the offense to keep up with Buffalo. So I do have the Bills winning like a 31-21 win over Atlanta. Moving into this next matchup, let's go. Oh man, I'm so excited about this one. I'm looking forward to rewatching it because this is a game that I'm only gonna be able to keep an eye on when it's on Red Zone because my Colts are obviously playing at that time. But with that being said, we got the Kansas City Chiefs heading out to Cincinnati to face the Bengals. Taking a look at both injury reports for KC, they have two guys that did not practice: Clyde Edwards-Helaire with a shoulder and Joe Thuney with an illness. And then you got the Bengals, Cam Sample with a hamstring, and then Jalen Davis with an ankle. Both those guys also did not practice. So this is a huge game for both teams. Because obviously if the Chiefs win, I think they're pretty much, I don't think they officially lock it up, but I think they pretty much put themselves in a prime position to be the number one seed in the AFC with a win on Sunday. I believe, I want to say if they actually win on Sunday, they win the AFC West as well too. So they got their division title to pretty much lock up, and they also got the number one seed in the AFC. Then you got the Bengals, where if they get their win, I'm pretty sure they're going to lock up the AFC North, which is huge. Now, I did make the prediction. I thought they're going to compete for the playoffs, but I still picked them to finish last in the division. So I don't know how I can brag about it, but I still said they're good enough to be a playoff team. It was just going to be on them to make it happen. But keeping on track, though, like they can still win the AFC North. And here's the thing, too. If they beat the Chiefs, right, and then the Chiefs were to lose that last week game and the Bengals were to win their last week game, I think the Bengals technically have a shot to be the number one seed in the AFC, which would be wild to think about. Which is kind of cool, though, because I did... these would be my boys Roy, Rob, and Jack Bourgeois from Blitzalytics. I said when we used to do the happy hour show for Blitzalytics back in the 2020 season, at that point I said within 2 years, Joe Burrow is going to face Patrick Mahomes in the AFC Championship game. And they might be happening a year before I thought it was going to happen. I forget what exact year, but I either said it was going to be this year or next year. I want to say I think I said it was going to be next year, but if it comes a year early, I'm still going to brag about it, right? But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into this matchup with these two teams having something to fight for. Like, obviously, I guess start with the Bengals, right? Joe Burrow's coming off that huge performance where he threw for over 500 yards. Now he's going against this Kansas City defense, which is not the Kansas City defense that we saw at the beginning of this year. This defense has gotten better as the years progress. They've gotten guys to step up, like a rookie Nick Bolton at the linebacker position. They got L'Jarius Sneed. They got Tyrann Mathieu. You got Frank Clark coming off the edge, and obviously Chris Jones in the middle of that defense. So they do have playmakers at all three levels of the ball, as long as Nick Bolton continues to do his growth in his rookie season. And then how I kind of view this is, I think Joe Burrow, even though the Chiefs defense has been playing a lot better, I think Joe is playing with so much confidence right now. I think the game has completely slowed down for him, that I think he's going to pick apart this KC defense throughout the day. I think he's got so many weapons he can rely on in the passing attack. He's still got Joe Mixon that they can hand the ball off, and he can be a playmaker out of the backfield. And I think they're going to put up those 3 to 4 touchdown drives throughout the day. And then you flip sides of the ball. I think the Chiefs, they're another team that not only their defense has gotten better off as the season progressed. In my personal opinion, I think that offense has slowly gotten better. They get Travis Kelce back in the lineup. They got a guy like Byron Pringle that's stepping up. They got Darrell Williams that can step in for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And I think they're going against this defense, which, like the Bengals too, they're a defense that, they've been stout against the run. Trey Hendrickson has been very good at getting after the quarterback. And they do got guys like Mike Hilton. I think Awuzi's back in the lineup. Jesse Bates. They got some guys that can pluck the ball out of the air from Patrick Mahomes if he does give them some interception opportunities. So I view these teams very evenly. I really do. I think both of the defenses are like solid but not great. I think both offenses can put up points, and they got a number of weapons they can utilize. And I think both teams are going to put up 3 to 4 touchdown drives in this game. It's going to be a back and forth battle. This game is going to come down into the fourth quarter. I think this is going to come down to who has the ball last in their hands. And you guys know where I normally go, right? It's like normally at this point, if you guys hear me talk about a game like this where I kind of view these teams evenly, you guys heard me in the past go like, well, I'm going to pick who's the better quarterback. It's really hard for me to pick because, Patrick Mahomes, for me, he has all the arm talent in the world. The guy is ridiculously with where he can place the ball, how he can throw the ball, how deep he can hit it accurately, and he's got the number of weapons. I do think he's got a better arm than Joe Burrow, but I think Joe Burrow's moxie, Joe Burrow's accuracy, Joe Burrow's timing, his intelligence as a quarterback puts him right up there and can make up for his lack of deficiencies in his arm talent compared to Patrick Mahomes. So, man, this is hard for me to pick. I will say this, though. The Chiefs are on an 8-game winning streak. Sometimes that does have to come to an end, right? The Bengals are the home team. Maybe Casey can play in bad weather. Man, guys, I'm going with Cincinnati. I was starting to lean towards Cincinnati these last 10 seconds. So why don't I just do it? I'm going to pick Cincinnati. It does feel like the Chiefs are due to drop a game here. So I'm going to go ahead and pick them. I'm going to pick the Bengals to pull it off. Let's just say I said they had to have the ball last. Did they score a touchdown or a field goal, guys? Let's go with the touchdown. Joe Burrow scores a touchdown to pull them ahead. They win a 35-31 win on Sunday. Moving into this next matchup, another AFC matchup that had actually these next couple matchups that I'm talking about are going to have total implications on this playoff picture. Not only the one I just talked about, this one, and then the next one that I'm going to be talking about will completely can fluctuate the playoff picture after these results of the games. But starting with this one, Miami is heading up to Tennessee to face the Titans. Dolphins had a full practice. Everybody's healthy on that team. And that team is one of the hottest teams in the league right now. Titans, these two players did not practice. A.J. Brown with the calf, so I'm not sure if that's maintenance, but that's obviously huge because A.J. Brown made a huge difference when he returned to that lineup last week. Corey Levin with an illness, Aaron Brewer, and then those two guys didn't practice. These two guys were limited. Aaron Brewer with the toe and Jackrabbit Jenkins with his ankle injury. So yeah, with this game, you got the Dolphins, who are one of the hottest teams in the league, but just like most people have already pointed out, like the thing is, the teams that they've beaten really weren't really that great of teams, and they kind of have faced some bad quarterbacks. So they like Ian Book, right, this past Monday night. Maybe that game would have been different if it was a Taysom Hill-led Saints team. So with that being said, they're going against the Titans. Ryan Tannehill has been a quality quarterback. That he definitely has had his struggles when guys were out of the lineup. But they were finally to kind of get off that little bad losing streak they were on, and they got that big win against the 49ers last week, so they should be entering this matchup with some confidence. But that Dolphins defense is playing really good right now. They get after the quarterback, and they can create turnovers on any drive. So for me with the Titans, they're going to try to establish the run. I just don't see how they're going to find any success in doing so. And I can see the Dolphins trying to put this on Ryan Tannehill to beat them. And in my personal opinion, if they can stick Xavier Howard on him, man-to-man with A.J. Brown, as much as I love A.J. Brown, I think Xavier Howard can match up with him, and then they can put a safety over on top just to make sure, and they can double team him. The Titans, I believe, are going to need Julio Jones to have a game. Julio Jones hasn't had that game for them, so I don't know if that's going to happen. But I will never doubt Julio Jones. Even though he hasn't had that blow up spot this year, I still think he's more than capable of doing that just because he's Julio Jones. So I think for the Titans, if they're going to have a lot of success against this Dolphins defense, it's going to be on Julio. I think if Brian Flores is the mad defensive genius that he seems to be, he can. I don't know if he's going to do what I'm thinking, but that's at least what I would do. I'd put Howard on Brown, maybe put a safety over there to help him out just to make sure, and then let everybody else beat them. That's what I would do. I do think the Titans do find some success on drives throughout the game. I think they're capable of doing 2 to 3 touchdown drives, though, against the Dolphins defense. And then you flip sides of the ball, the Dolphins offense it's still kind of a mess, right? Tua's doing his damn thing. People got to give Tua credit. He's battled all the adversity on the outside noise, and he's gotten better as the season has progressed, but there are some times where Tua, I don't know, he just kind of forces his decisions. He gets tunneled vision, and that's when his interceptions come. But I do believe that's also a factor because of his offensive line not being that great. And his offensive line is not that great. He's going against one of the biggest bullies in the NFL as far as defensive front, with Jeffrey Simmons, Nico Autry, Bud Dupree, and they got Harold Landry that can get after the quarterback and come off the edge. So I see some inconsistencies coming for this Dolphins offense because the Titans defense should be able to bottle up the run, and they're going to put this game on Tua and that pass protection, and I don't trust the Dolphins pass protection. So I think the Titans are going to hit Tua often. So Tua's going to need to get the ball out of his hands at a quick rate. He's going to have to do some dump offs to his running backs. They're going to have to set up some screen plays for his wide receivers like Jalen Waddle. How they used Jalen Waddle last week, where they were lining him back in the backfield, lining him up all over the defense. All over the offense, and especially in that backfield, they were able to kind of get him on some little quick dump offs. So they're going to have to do stuff like that. I do think, though, they're going to have their drives where they put up 2 to 3 touchdown drives. This is one of those other games I think is going to be close. I think it's going to come down to the fourth quarter. But I don't think this is one of those ones that come down to who has the ball last. I think this is going to come down to who makes the biggest turnover in the fourth quarter. Who can maybe pick off Tua? Who can maybe pick off Tannehill? He has struggled with his turnovers this year compared to the last couple seasons. So, man, this is a tough one for me to pick, but I do believe the Dolphins' defense is more opportunistic. I totally butchered that word. They are more willing to take the risk for turnovers. So I just think the Titans' offense is going to have their moments where they don't sustain drives, especially if A.J. Brown ends up getting ruled out. I will feel very strongly about this prediction I'm about to make if A.J. Brown ends up getting ruled out. I am going to go ahead and pick Miami. They win like a 24-21 win over Tennessee. Moving into this next matchup, like I said, this is another AFC matchup that has some playoff implications on the line. So you got the Las Vegas Raiders heading up to Indianapolis to face the Colts. Take a quick look at these injury reports. There's only 2 players that are limited for Las Vegas. Divine Diablo with a shoulder and elbow, and then Jonathan Hankins with a back. And then for the Colts, these 3 players did not practice. Andrew Sendejo with a concussion, Jack Doyle with a knee and ankle, and then Eric Fisher with a knee, shoulder, and toe. So starting with Las Vegas, they will not go away. They won't die. I'm very surprised of how hard they have fought throughout the season with Rick Bisaccia as their interim head coach after the whole John Gruden situation, all the drama that surrounded this team. They are in position where they can go try to get a wild card spot. If they were able to win out and have some teams drop some games, and this is a huge game because I believe probably won't officially put them out, but I think if they lose this game on Sunday, I think it really significantly drops their odds of potentially making the playoffs if they don't win this game on Sunday. And then the Colts, they win on Sunday. They officially clinch a playoff spot, so that's what they have going for them. And then if the Colts win this week, the Titans lose as I predicted, and that maybe that might have influenced my prediction. You don't judge me for that. Um, I do think the Dolphins are truly going to win that game. By the way, I did not let my Colts fandom influence that decision. Um, so, anyways, get back to what I was saying. The Colts win this game. The Colts win next week against the Jaguars. If the Titans lose against the Dolphins this week, and they were to happen to lose to the Texans, who they lost to earlier of this season, back in November, if they were to lose to the Texans next week, the Colts still technically have a shot to win the division. Now, in my opinion, it's an outside shot because I do think the Titans could possibly win this game on Sunday, and I do think they would handle their business next week against the Texans. But there is still that outside shot they can win the division and host a wild card home game. Now let's go ahead and get into this game. Like, the Colts are coming off that surprisingly win against the Cardinals. Now I did predict them to win against the Cardinals, but I would be lying to you if when it was announced just hours before the game that not only they're going to be missing all those guys on the offensive line, but then Darius Leonard got ruled out, Kari Willis got ruled out, Zach Pascal got ruled out. Then in the first quarter, Jack Doyle gets hurt, Eric Fisher gets hurt. Yeah, I was definitely thinking like, man, I really hope we can make it competitive. And that coaching staff had everybody ready to play. And then Carson Wentz made his biggest drive of the season, made his best throw of the season last year. So we're going to have to see if Carson Wentz can build off that performance into this matchup. Now, Carson Wentz is technically still on the reserve COVID list, but it sounds like he's good to go as long as he is not showing any symptoms on Sunday morning. The expectation is he's going to be activated and he will be playing. So I'm going underneath the assumption with this game prediction that he's going to be playing. And then obviously you got the offensive lineman will be back. Quentin Nelson's back in the lineup. We'll have to see where Eric Fisher stands. But after how that offensive line, they weren't like the most impressive offensive linemen with the backups, but they did a good enough job. And now that they get all their reinforcements back, I think this offensive line is going to dominate the trenches, and that's going to open up holes for Jonathan Taylor. Last season, these two teams did play against each other. Jonathan Taylor went for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. I think they're going to try to repeat that success, and I think Jonathan Taylor's set to have a big game. And then once he gets things going, that's going to open up the play-action attack for Carson. He's going to be able to pick him apart with Michael Pittman like he has. I think Mo Alley Cox is set to have a big game against the Raiders. He typically does have his good performances against Las Vegas. And I think we're going to see a little T.Y. Hilton shot at some point deep down. This could be possibly T.Y. Hilton's last home game in Lucas Oil Stadium. So I know they're going to try to take a deep shot to T.Y. and get him a touchdown. And I think they're going to be able to put up 3 to 4 touchdown drives against Las Vegas. Now, you flip sides of the ball. You got the Raiders offense, which has been inconsistent in my opinion. You know, some games they're when they're in sync, some games they're really hard to stop, right? Because they can get the ground game going with Josh Jacobs. If we'll have to see if Darren Waller can play. They were optimistic that he could play on Sunday from his knee injury, and then he got placed on the reserve COVID list. But he's vaccinated, so he could technically still test out before the 5-day period. He's not automatically out 5 days like unvaccinated players are with these new rules. So Waller could still play, and if Waller does play, the Colts completely struggle on defending tight ends this year. So Waller could have a huge game against the Colts. And then they still got Hunter Renfrow in the slot. Byron Edwards has a big body presence. They got Deshaun Jackson that could take the top off the defense. But, you know, they're going against the Colts defense, who's playing really good football over this last couple months. They don't allow those explosive plays. So as long as they can continue that success against the Las Vegas and keep everything in front of them, I like that. I like them making the Las Vegas have to take long, sustaining drives to get their touchdowns. And I wonder if that's going to be enough. But, you know, Derek Carr, he can pick apart a defense at times. And I think it's going to be like a 2 to 3 touchdown day for that offense. But I do think the Colts step up and force some turnovers at some point. I do think the Colts are just too hot for me to pick against them. I know they're my team, guys, but they've just been playing really good football. And then when you get that type of win like you did in Arizona with missing 10-plus starter, or they were out 8 starters, but like 10-plus players throughout the game, man, you got to know, with them getting everybody back, I definitely can't pick against them. I think the Colts end up winning like a 28-21 win on Sunday. And then I think this is the last. Yeah. All right. So this is the last 1 p.m. game, guys. I'm going to go ahead and get into this. We got the Philadelphia Eagles traveling out to Washington to face the football team. For the Philadelphia side, Miles Sanders did not practice because of a hand injury, and then Jordan Howard was limited because of a stinger. And then on the Washington side, they're a little bit banged up right now. These four players did not practice. Sam Cosmi with an illness, William Jackson with a calf, Montez Sweat because of a personal reason, Antonio Gibson with a hip, and then these players were limited. Sadiq Charles with an ankle, Curtis Samuel with a hamstring, and then James Smith Williams because of an illness. And yeah, so with this game, the Eagles obviously what a run they are on. They are running the ball all over teams. They are currently in the playoff picture, and as long as they can continue to stack up these wins, it's looking like they're going to be the team that ends up locking up a wild card spot out of nowhere in the NFC. Now the football team, they've been a nice story and everything, but I think between the injuries and the guy that's Taylor Heineke being their quarterback, that has eventually caught up to them, right? And now they're starting to, you know, they don't have enough juice on the offense because of the quarterback situation. Their offensive line is very inconsistent. But I mean, at times they are still able to move the ball on the ground with Antonio Gibson. Terry McLaurin's kind of taken a step back, not because of him, but because of the quarterback play and that offense as a whole. And they're going against this Eagles defense, which has been very solid this year. Darius Slay's putting some good things. T.J. Edwards at the linebacker spot, which I'm happy to see. He was a top 5 linebacker for me in his class. And then you got the guys up front too, like Javon Hargraves, who's dominating in the middle of that defense. So I just see a very inconsistent day for the football team's offense. I do think they'll play a little bit better than they did a couple weeks ago when these teams faced. But I just wonder, like, how bad is this hip injury for Antonio Gibson? Is he be able to get through the whole matchup? If I end up playing him in my fantasy lineup in the championship game, I hope he does. So that is something I'm definitely monitoring. But Antonio Gibson has battled through injuries before. But I just see a very inconsistent day from the football team's offense. I think they end up putting up like they still should be able to put up like 2 touchdown drives. They probably need to put up 3 or 4 though, if they want to win this game. Then you flip sides of the ball, man. The Eagles are just running the ball down people's throats. Now Miles Sanders is likely out of this game. Jordan Howard's limited with that stinger, but they still got Boston Scott. They still got Kenneth Gainwell. And I mean, over this little 8 or 9 game stretch where they're averaging 160 yards a game. It's freaking crazy. So I don't think it matters who the running back is. I think they're gonna look to establish that. They'll use Jalen Hurts' mobility to their advantage, use the RPO game, and then they're just going against this football team who's just been decimated with injuries, right? They don't got their top guy in Chase Young. We'll have to see if Montez Sweat can go. We saw their 2 studs, Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen, throw punches at each other. Well, one guy threw a punch at each other. I mean, those guys are ballers. They played with each other at Alabama, so I think that was just kind of a brotherly dispute. I do agree that's probably what it was. It still is never a good look, though, to see that on the sideline of a football team. And then William Jackson has not practiced because of his calf injury. He's their best cornerback, right? So I think this is going to be a good game, not only for the ground attack. I think Jalen's going to pick them apart through the air with Dallas Goedert and Devontae Smith, and I think they're going to put up 3 to 4 touchdown drives on this team. That's why I think Washington just doesn't have enough juice on that offense to play catch up with this Philadelphia offense with how they are humming right now. And I think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to handle their business. They're going to win like a 28-14 win on Sunday. All right, guys. We are going to go ahead and move into these 4 p.m. games. And let's see here. We got the Denver Broncos traveling out to LA to face the Chargers. Starting with the injury report, since Denver is dealing with a long list of injuries. These following players did not practice yesterday. Teddy Bridgewater with a concussion, so I do believe the assumption is Drew Lock will be the starter in this game. Ronald Darby with a shoulder, Kenny Young with a concussion, Bradley Chubb with a shoulder and an illness, and then Jonathan Cooper with an illness. And then these number of players were limited for Denver. Kareem Jackson with a back, Melvin Gordon with a thumb and hip, Shelby Harris with an ankle, Draymond Jones with a foot, Shamar Stephen with a knee, and then Javonte Williams with his knee injury. Then the Chargers are getting healthier. Drew Tranquil did not practice with an ankle, and then Derwin James was limited with a hamstring. So you got two teams are still technically fighting for the AFC wild card. Now, as of right now, both teams are outside the playoffs picture. The biggest surprise, not really much with Denver, but with the LA Chargers, they've dropped a couple games over the last few weeks. Their offense has looked out of sync. Justin Herbert has struggled. I mean, they lost to the Texans. The Texans, out of all teams, their defense struggles to stop the run. So you're kind of wondering how far this team can go come playoff time, if they're going to let teams run all over them, and then if they're going to let their struggles on offense to persist as we go into January. But with that being said, I know they lost to the Texans, but they are out Mike Williams, they are out Austin Eckler, Corey Linsley, their starting center, was out of the lineup. I think there's some guy, Joey Bosa was out of that game. So they were missing a number of guys, but I still think you guys should have beat the Texans. So with that being said, they're getting all their guys back this week, and I just went over a number of those guys that are hurt on Denver. We saw last week that the Broncos struggled on offense. They could not get the run established against the Raiders last week, who is one of the worst defenses in defending the run this season. So, and they could not get anything going with either running back last week. Now here's Denver's success, right? They're going against the Chargers, who struggle against the run. Don't let Drew Lock throw the ball a lot. Hand that ball off to Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams as much as you can. Try to get that going early, and then if you guys can get that going early, that's when you can go to the play action, take a deep shot to Sutton, take a deep shot to Jerry Jeudy, hit a crosser with Noah Fant because he's got the speed to catch a crosser and then get up the field for a big chunk gain. There are things they could do to move the ball against the Chargers the Chargers defense. I just wonder how consistent it will be because of Drew Lock, because he's very inaccurate when he has the arm to push it down the field, but he can be very inaccurate at times. So I see an offense that will have drives where they get down the field because of the running game and they are able to punch the ball in the end zone. But then I see the next drive coming where they're put in like a 3rd and 7 situation, and Drew Lock just can't get the first down, or he ends up throwing an interception or two in this game. But they still should be able to put up 2 to 3 touchdown drives against the Chargers defense. Now, you flip sides of the ball. Obviously, Justin Herbert needs to get back on track, but we have to point out too, earlier this season, the Broncos were able to give fits to Justin Herbert and that passing attack. And I believe they did win that game. Yeah, they did win that game earlier this season. And because of, just want to double check and make sure I ain't misspeaking, because I was worried about that So the Broncos beat them back at the end of Thanksgiving weekend, 28-13, and Justin Herbert completely struggled, right? So Justin Herbert, needs to be a bounce back game. This needs to be a game where he went back into the tape, watched what he did wrong against the Broncos last time, look what he did wrong last week, and put that into this game. So with that being said, though, Bradley Chubb is hurt. That's huge. Kareem Jackson is limited. So they have a number of guys who are kind of banged up on that defense. So I expect Austin Eckler to get his, though. He's back in the lineup. They're going to have to try to get things going with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. And what they need to do is they need to take their shots at times, but they just need to get themselves in 3rd and short situations. I think they find themselves in too many 3rd and 5, 3rd and 7s. And yeah, Herbert's got the mobility, he's got the arm to pick those up, but they have to start putting their quarterback in favorable situations. I think that's what their issues are coming from. So with that being said, though, I still think they're going to put up 2 to 3 touchdown drives. I don't think they're going to repeat what they did last time they faced Denver. I think they'll find more success. They are at home this time. They're not in the Mile High Stadium. I think the Chargers figure out a way to squeeze out this win. I think it's going to be close because of Vic Fangio's success against Justin Herbert. But they find a way to get the game won in the 4th quarter, and they win a 28-24 win for the Chargers. Moving on to this next game, we got the Houston Texans heading out to San Francisco to face the 49ers. Now, take a look at the injury report. For the Texans, these two players did not practice. Anthony Auclair with an illness, and then Jimmy Moreland with an illness. And then these number of players were limited. Justin Britt with a knee, Chris Conley with a knee, and Jonathan Gernard with a foot, Camus Grugier-Hill with a knee, Jordan Jenkins with a knee, AJ Moore with an illness, and DeMarcus Walker with a hamstring. And then these four players did not practice for the 49ers. Aziz Al-Shahir with his knee, Jimmy Garoppolo with the thumb, Talanoa Hofanga, I hope I pronounced that right, with a knee, Maurice Hurst with the calf, Dre Greenlaw with the groin, DJ Jones with an ankle, and Elijah Mitchell with a knee. So this is interesting. Is interesting the right word? I'm not sure. Maybe I should not have used that. But this is, yeah, it is. You know what? It is an interesting matchup, right? Because you got the Texans, who most people, including myself, thought were going to lay down. Now, remember last week when I said this is going to be a short preview, you guys should fade against me? I hope you guys did fade against me, because I can't believe the Texans did beat those Chargers last week. But so you got the Texans, right, where it seems like they would be mailing it in. They got a coach that well, I don't know, man. Like, his team's fighting hard for him. I think maybe Dave Culley should maybe get another shot at the job next year. At first I thought maybe he was a bridge head coach, but with how his team is fighting for him at this point of the year, that kind of I've talked about this before. To me, that is a signs of potentially a good coach when he's got his team fighting at the end of the year like he does. So yeah, but they got Davis Mills on the offense, who the rookie quarterback's shown some good things, but can he consistently do that as the season comes to an end? And then, so yeah, basically what I'm trying to get at is the Texans don't have really anything to fight for, but they are fighting, right? And then you got the 49ers, who dropped that game against the Titans last week. That is a game they should have won. Their secondary issues are showing up, as I was saying a couple weeks ago. I don't like their cornerback group or their safety group that they're having right now. And then the 49ers, though, they're currently in the playoff picture. They're basically in the driver's seat. I believe if they just win, I don't think they got to win to clinch a spot. I think they got to win out, or they got to win and hope a team drops a game. But they're in a prime position because they're on the other side of 500 compared to some of the other teams in the NFC that are trying to claw themselves in to the wild card picture. So with that being said, though, Jimmy Garoppolo hurt his thumb. He's dealing with some type of UCL thing in his thumb. He did not practice yesterday. He was pretty adamant that he thinks he's going to play. Kyle Shanahan said that Trey Lance has had his best month of practice. So I don't know what we're going to get out of this 49ers offense. So I do know one thing, though, whether it's Jimmy Garoppolo or Trey Lance, and whether it's Elijah Mitchell in the backfield or Jeff Wilson, they're going to try to establish the run. They should be able to run the ball against the Texans offense. They should be able to have some success on the ground, regardless of who the quarterback and running back is. And I just think that Kyle Shanahan is going to develop a nice little game plan of how he can attack this Texans offense. And then I do think, too, if it ends up being Trey Lance, you're going to see a unique form of Kyle Shanahan's offense, and I don't believe the defense will be ready for that from the Texans side. And I don't know like I said, I don't think it really matters who the quarterback is. I do think they're going to be able to put up 3 to 4 touchdown drives against the Texans. And then you flip sides of the ball, like I said, Davis Mills has been putting some good things on tape. And he's getting Brandon Cooks, his weapon, back in the lineup, so that should help. And they're going against the 49ers defense, where if Nick Bosa and the guys up front can dominate the trenches, and because what happened was Rex Burkhead ran all over the Chargers last week. So they can bottle up that rushing attack. Don't let Rex Burkhead run all over you, and you force the rookie to make a lot of throws. That's where you can get this in a favorable situation for you. But you have to confuse Davis Mills. He's a very smart kid. He's a very smart quarterback. So you have to confuse him, and you have to get home. You have to get pressure on him. Because if he's going to have too much time in the pocket, I don't trust the San Francisco 49ers secondary to keep the kid in check. I do think Brandon Cooks can get his on the outside against those cornerbacks. And then I think a guy like Nico Collins, who's coming along as a rookie, Brevin Jordan, they're going to be able to kind of, spread the ball. But, I do think Nick Bosa is going to get home throughout this game. And I think they're going to be able to confuse that kid at times. They're going to put up 2 to 3 touchdown drives. I just don't think it's going to be enough. I think San Francisco handles their business. They end up winning like a 31-17 win over Houston. moving into this next game, I may try because I realize I'm almost getting to the hour mark, and I got a number of games to still talk about. So this next game, guys, I may somewhat speed through because this game has no implications at all. But we got the Detroit Lions heading out to Seattle to face the Seahawks. With on the Detroit side, with the injury report, these three players did not practice. Jared Goff with a knee, Jason Kabinda with a knee, Savion Smith with an illness, and then these two players were limited. Curtis Bolton with a back, Jalen Reeves may have been with a shoulder, and then you go to the other side of the ball with Seattle. These two players did not practice. John Radigan with a knee, Brandon Shell with a shoulder, and then these three players were limited. Gabe Jackson with a knee, Al Woods with a shoulder, and Alex Collins with an abdomen. So yeah, with this, guys, like I said, I'm probably gonna be relatively quick. Not because I think any team's gonna blow them out, but this game really has no implications. Both teams are set to probably draft in the top. Well, I know the Lions are for sure to set in the top 10. Seattle traded away their picks, so wherever they finish is where the New York Jets will be picking. So obviously the Jets are rooting for the Lions to get this win. But the Lions are likely going to be playing without Jared Goff. They're going to be playing with Tim Boyle. Now, Tim Boyle did help keep that game close against Atlanta last week. And then you're going against the Seahawks, who just let Nick Foles pull off that comeback. That offense has been a mess, but this is I think the Seattle's last home game of the year. They're gonna want to ball out in front of the 12s. I mean, we don't know what's going on with Russell Wilson's history. Could this be one of his last home games in Seattle, by the way? So I think they're gonna come out and ball. I do think Russell Wilson's going to have his better game of the year. He's going to spread the ball to DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Gerald Everett, and they're just going to throw the ball over the place and put up some points on Sunday. I do think we're going to see the best performance out of Seattle, not because of Seattle's offense, but more of the defense that they're facing. But, I mean, I give so much credit to Detroit because they're missing so many guys, but they're still fighting hard and making life difficult on their opposing team. Then you flip sides of the ball. I think it sounds like DeAndre Swift will be back for the Lions. So I expect a lot of DeAndre Swift action, and then a lot of Amon-Ra St. Brown for my fantasy team, I hope. And I think they will try to make this a game, but I do think Seattle's defensive front is going to harass Tim Boyle throughout the day, and that's going to result in an interception. Quandre Diggs is definitely going to want to get an interception off his former team. And I think I just see a very inconsistent day for the Lions offense just because of the lack of the downgrade at the quarterback position, and then just the lack of weapons. And yeah, I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown's doing some good things. DeAndre Swift's a baller, but I just wonder if that will be enough to overcome the day that I think Seattle's offense is going to have. So I think Seattle ends up winning like a 28-17 win tomorrow or Sunday. Gotta stop saying that. All right, next game, guys. We got the Arizona Cardinals traveling out to Dallas Cowboys. With this game, for the injury report on the Arizona side, these number of players did not practice. Zach Allen with an ankle, James Conner with a heel, Demetrius Harris with a shoulder, Jordan Phillips with a knee, and then Marco Wilson with a shoulder. And then these four players were limited. Budda Baker with ribs, Rodney Hudson with an illness, and then Rondale Moore with an ankle, and Chase Edmonds with his back injury. And then moving into the Cowboys injury report, Quinton Bohanna did not practice with an illness, and then these two players were limited: DeMarcus Lawrence with a foot and Tyron Smith with his ankle injury. So yeah, we got two top NFC teams that are heading in the opposite directions, right? So the Cowboys are kind of their defense is playing really good football. Their offense is coming off a huge performance from last week, and not only they have locked up the NFC East, but they will. Well, I do apologize about that, Titan. He's decided he was going to make an appearance today. So yeah, that completely threw me off because I was not expecting that. And then you got the Cardinals, right? They've dropped, 3 or 4 games in a row. But even though they dropped all those games, they have already clinched a playoff spot because of the success that they had earlier in this season. And this is a team where their defense is, been very inconsistent. Some drives they step up, but then the next drive teams are able to move the ball against them. And then their offense is where they're inconsistent. I apologize. Come on, Titan. You don't have to be doing that right now. Drink some water, buddy. I apologize about that. So with that being said, their defense, God, he threw me off right there. Their offense is very inconsistent because they kind of got hot right with James Conner the last time they were playing well, but then he got hurt, and then obviously DeAndre Hopkins is missing, and ever since DeAndre Hopkins has been out of that lineup, Kyler Murray in that passing attack has been very inconsistent. They got to find a way to get things going, right? They need to find a way to utilize Rondale Moore's talent, in my opinion. I feel like there's ways. Okay, come on, Titan. Go drink some water, buddy. I apologize, guys, about that. So, anyways, Titan really threw me off right there. So, what they need to do is they need to utilize Rondale Moore's talent. Christian Kirk, they can utilize him. AJ Grant, they still got a number of weapons that they can throw the ball to. So they got to figure that out and get some consistency on the offense. In my personal opinion, I still think this offense can be very explosive, and I think they can match touchdown for touchdown with the Cowboys offense. So the way I view it is they got to get things going, but until I see them get things going, I don't know if I can trust the Arizona offense. But I still think they can put up 3+ touchdown drives against this Cowboys defense. But then you flip sides of the ball. Dak is coming off one of his best games in the recent months. He's got his number of weapons he can spread the ball to with Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, and Michael Gallup. Ezekiel Elliott's running the ball hard. They'll get Tony Pollard back to how he was playing once he kind of his that tear in his foot that he's dealing with. Once that starts to get to being 100% healthy, and I think they're going to be able to themselves put up 3 to 4 touchdown drives. I do think we're going to see a better performance out of Arizona. At least I feel that way, but it's one of those things where I got to see it to believe it. So with that being said, I think the Cowboys will overcome the inconsistencies of the Arizona team, and they end up winning like a 31-27 win on Sunday. All right, moving into this last 4 p.m. game, we got the Carolina Panthers heading into New Orleans to face the Saints. With this matchup on the injury report on the Carolina side, we have 2 players that did not practice, Cameron Irving with a calf and Stephon Gilmore with a groin. And then these 3 players were limited, Justin Burris with a groin, Jermaine Carter with a groin, and Sean Chandler with a groin. Like, oof, got a lot of groin issues going on in Carolina. And then these 3 players for New Orleans did not practice. Teron Armstead with a knee, Traquan Smith with a chest, Ty Montgomery with a back. And then these 3 players were limited. Marcus Davenport with a shoulder, Nick Van Nett with an ankle, and Mark Ingram with a knee. So you got 2 teams. You got one team that's not really fighting for anything. Carolina's out of the playoff picture. There's a lot of drama surrounding Matt Rule and his future in Carolina. Which, by the way, I don't think he's going to get fired. He signed like a 6 or 7 year deal. He's only in the 2nd year of that deal. He's coming back next year, guys. And you guys know how I feel. Coaches, in my opinion, unless like it's an utter disaster, like it wasn't with Urban Meyer, coaches deserve at least 3 years to establish their culture and to get the players they want to prove that they are the guy for the coaching job. That's just my personal opinion. So, with that being said, though, Carolina really doesn't have much to fight for. Sam Darnold will be the starting quarterback, so you guys know how I feel about that. Not a fan of that at all. But the thing is, though, they're going against the Saints team who, Carolina beat earlier this year. They get Taysom Hill back this week, but even with Taysom Hill, their offense has completely struggled this year. They have failed to be consistent. I don't think they're utilizing Alvin Kamara in the way that they should be using Alvin Kamara. They don't have a really legit threat in their passing attack. So there's ways that you can defend this team and make them very limited. Why don't I start on that? So what Carolina's defense can do is they can bottle up Kamara, kind of similar to what Miami did this past Monday night, and put it on the quarterback to beat you. Obviously, with this quarterback, with Taysom Hill, he's a lot different than Ian Book. He can run the ball, so you just got to make sure you put a spy on him. Put like Shaq Thompson's fast enough. He can be the spy on Taysom Hill, and you can kind of like shut down that running game between the quarterback and running back and force him to beat you through the air. And that's where you can try to go after opportunities for those turnovers. So this offense has struggled, to say the least. So I really don't see that changing. Even though the Carolina is having their own struggles, that defense is still pretty good. They got playmakers throughout on all three levels of the ball. So I think they're only going to put up 2 to 3 touchdown drives. And then you flip sides of the ball, though, who's been winning them the games is that Saints defense. So that Saints defense is probably going to have to put them in a prime position to win this game. Going against the Carolina offense, which has been having all types of struggles, their offensive line has been struggling. So Cameron Jordan, Marcus Davenport, they're going to harass Sam Darnold throughout the day. And then that's going to lead to Sam Darnold's turnovers. CJ Gardner-Johnson can get a pick. Marshawn Lattimore could get a pick. And I think this defense is just going to shut down the Panthers offense, where the Panthers offense is very inconsistent. I think the Panthers offense maybe gets a touchdown drive or two. I just don't think that's going to be enough. I think this is going to be a very low scoring game. I think maybe Carolina has an opportunity to win the game, but Sam Darnold ends up throwing an interception to cost them. Saints win 17-14. All right, moving on to this next matchup, we got the Sunday Night Football matchup. Minnesota's traveling to Green Bay to face the Packers. Starting with the Vikings, just in case anybody did not see this earlier this week, Adam Thielen underwent season-ending ankle surgery, so his season is officially over. Obviously, that hurts their chances to be in a consistent offense on Sunday night. And then the Cameron Dantzler did not practice yesterday with a calf, and then these two players were limited. Chad Surratt with an illness and Tyler Conklin with his hamstring. On Green Bay side, these 4 players did not practice yesterday. David Bakhtiari with a knee, Tyler Lancaster with a back, Aaron Rodgers with his toe, Billy Turner with a knee, and then these 3 players were limited. Jair Alexander with a shoulder, Dominic Daphne with an ankle, and then Aaron Jones with a knee. So you got 2 teams fighting for obviously a couple things. Like obviously the Packers have already wrapped up their division, but they are currently the number 1 seed in the NFC. I don't think if they win on Sunday they can lock up the number 1 seed, but I do believe if they win on Sunday they all but basically lock up the number 1 seed in the NFC, which you realize how not only number 1 seeds are huge because you get your guaranteed home playoff games throughout the season. You get the first round bye, but this is really huge for the Packers because the Packers are getting they're still trying to get David Bakhtiari back. Jair Alexander is working his way back, and then obviously Aaron Rodgers is dealing with his fractured toe. So that will give all those guys an extra week of rest for them to be 100% healthy for the playoffs. So obviously they want to, that's something to fight for. The Vikings beat them earlier in the season, so the Packers are going to want to get their revenge on that. Then you look at the Vikings, who they are a roller coaster of a team, right? They can beat the Packers one week and then they lose to the Lions the next week. They are currently one of those teams that are outside of the playoff picture, but they technically still have a shot to make it to the playoffs. So they're going to have something to fight for. But this is a game that's in Green Bay. It's probably going to be a cold night game. And I think we're going to see a classic Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay in Lambeau Field performance. I think he's going to pick apart that Vikings secondary who has had their struggles this year. I don't think he's going to repeat his unsuccessful attempt that he had. Well, I think he did decently last time they played him, but the Minnesota Vikings were able to pull it off. But I think that he's just going to pick them apart. He's going to manipulate the ball down the field with, of course, Devontae Adams. And then Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Alan Lazard. I think all 3 of those guys are going to have a huge night. And then eventually they're going to get to the fourth quarter when it's very cold. Maybe it's a snowy night, and they're going to pound the ball away with A.J. Dillon and go ahead. And I think they can put up 4 touchdown drives against the Minnesota defense. And then I think that with the Vikings, what they'll have to do is they're going to have to try to establish the run with Dalvin Cook and try to keep Aaron Rodgers on the sideline as much as possible. And then Kirk Cousins is going to have to be efficient as possible, taking deep shots to Justin Jefferson, KJ Osborne, and he's just going to have to play efficient football, and they're going to have to match touchdown for touchdown with the Packers offense. And I just wonder if at some point when they try to do that, if that turnover is going to happen. I wonder if, is Rashawn Gary going to come off the edge and light up Kirk for a forced fumble, and that's the difference? Is Kirk gonna be under duress and try to force a throw, and he throws an interception? Rasul Douglas has been getting his hands on some balls, so I think that's what ends up happening, ends up being the difference in this game, is I think the Vikings offense is going to make a crucial mistake come the fourth quarter, and that's where the Packers pull away in this game, and they end up winning like a 31-24 win on Sunday night. Moving into this last game, the last Monday Night Football game of the season, guys. We got the Cleveland Browns heading up to Pittsburgh. Is that up? I don't know. I really don't know my geography in that part of the country. Cleveland Browns heading to Pittsburgh to face the Steelers. Let's see, take a look at Cleveland's injury report. These number of players did not practice. Troy Hill with a knee, Kareem Hunt with an ankle, Malik Jackson with a knee, John Johnson with a hamstring, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah with an illness, and then these 3 players were limited. Myles Garrett with a groin, Greg Newsome with a concussion, and then J.C. Treader with his knee. And then these 4 players did not practice for the Steelers. Presley Harvin with a personal reason, Ben Roethlisberger with a pectoral and shoulder, Buddy Johnson with a foot, and then Kendrick Green with his calf injury. So yeah, guys, this is a very unique matchup, right? So you got the Browns versus the Steelers. Both teams technically still have a shot at the AFC wild card. Actually, both teams technically have a shot, I believe, at the division. I'm not sure what would need to happen for the division for the Steelers. Maybe they don't have technically a shot for the division, but I know the Browns do, because if the Browns were to win these next 2 games and the Bengals were to lose their last 2 games, the Browns would win the division, because I think the Bengals got the Chiefs this week, and I think they face those Browns next week. So that the Browns technically could still win their division. So both teams are still fighting for their playoff hopes. And then you put in the movie storyline, the movie narrative. This is Big Ben's, like he said it himself. Everybody knows he's going to probably more than likely 99% chance retire at the end of this year. And this will be Big Ben's last home game at Heinz Field in front of all those Yinzers up there in Pennsylvania. My good friends Rob and Roy Countryman, they will be at that game. I think I've seen a number of my Steelers content creators on my timeline say they're going to be at that game. So this is a huge game, and not only for these playoff implications. It's Big Ben's last game. Big Ben is undefeated at home against Cleveland. So not only Big Ben's going to want to close out with a win and keep his undefeated streak against Cleveland at home, you know this has got to motivate Cleveland too, right? You know the Browns as an organization is reiterating to their team, like, we cannot let Big Ben go undefeated against us at home. We want to end his career with a loss. Because as much as a good, heartfelt storyline it is for the Pittsburgh Steelers, we got the I don't want to say like the dark side, like the evil empire or anything like that, but you got that storyline too. Like, oh no, screw those guys. They've been a nightmare to us for the past 14, 15 years with Big Ben's dominance over our organization. Let's go stick it to them and not only have Big Ben lose his last home game, but knock them officially out of the playoff picture. You can call it a division rival, even though the Steelers have pretty much dominated that over the last 20 years. But yeah, it's like you kind of got that going on. So that being said, Steelers offense has completely struggled, right? It's really rough to watch. But, I'm going to buy into the narrative. Big Ben's going to have at least a decent performance in his last game. I think the offensive line is going to do as well as they can to protect him, give him enough time to spread the ball. They get Pat Freiermuth back in the lineup from his concussion, right? So, as I said all throughout the season, Big Ben is good when he has a tight end he can rely on. So, Pat Freiermuth will get his in this game, and then you'll see Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool get theirs. And then Najee Harris is going to have the ball out not only on the ground, but in pass protection as well. And I think they're going to find themselves a way to get those 2 to 3 touchdown drives. And then you flip sides of the ball. the Browns are going to look to try to establish a run with Nick Chubb, try to run down the ball down the Steelers' throat, who are one of the worst rushing defenses. So I think Nick Chubb's going to go for over 100 yards, get a couple touchdowns on the ground, and then when that running game going, that's where Baker Mayfield thrives. Off the play action, he's going to be able to hit Donovan Peoples-Jones on some deep play action shots. He's going to utilize his tight ends and get the ball down the field and get those 2 to 3 touchdown drives for his team. I think it's going to be a very close game that's going to come down to the fourth quarter. I think either team can win this game. Now, listen, if we didn't have this whole final Big Ben game, I'd probably pick Cleveland without thinking. But I do think the defense, I do think the offense, I think everybody's going to take their level of play up a notch because it's Big Ben's last home game. And that's enough for them. I think Big Ben gets his team in field goal position at the end of the game. Chris Boswell kicks the game-winning field goal. Steelers win a 24-21 win on Monday. So yeah, guys, that is my video. As always, if you enjoyed today's preview video, hit that like button. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. I'm going to be doing my preview, my weekly preview next week. I'm going to be doing that on Thursday. So there is 2 Saturday games. They're going to flex whatever games they decide to. So I'm going to do that Thursday night once I get all the final injury reports for that day in. So stay tuned for next week's preview video. And then I'm going to be doing preview videos all throughout the playoffs. And then once the playoffs are over, my content will be a little bit sporadic. I'm thinking about doing some free agency content. I'm going to have to think about that. But I'm going to be spending a lot of my time over these next few months doing scouting. So I'm going to be doing some scouting videos. I just don't know when I'll drop those because I'm going to kind of wait till I get my final opinions on these players. So stay tuned for that. Other than that, I'm going to get out of here. I want to wish everybody a Happy New Year. If you are watching this, have a Happy New Year. If you're watching this on a Saturday, I hope you had fun. Or Sunday morning, depending on when you get to this. But if you are watching this before you go out tonight, be safe. Don't do anything dumb. Call an Uber and just have fun. And I hope you guys have a great New Year. I appreciate all the support for over this past year. It's been a ride for me, guys. At the beginning of this year, I decided to move on from Blitzalytics. I'm now with Colts Wire, which I'm very appreciative of. So I appreciate anybody that reads my Colts Wire articles. I appreciate anybody that's been following along with me on this YouTube journey that I started back in August. Or July, yeah, it was like late July, late August. I have some big plans for this channel in 2022, so make sure you are subscribed to keep up with the latest. I'm gonna get out of here. Have a Happy New Year, guys. I'll talk to you next year. I know that was corny. Peace out, guys.